Have you ever thought about the factors that go into making a professional musician or a professional sounding musician? Today's video is for those of you who are studying music to become a professional, but also for those of you who just want to sound better on your instrument, even if you're not going to be a professional, and for audience members who are fascinated by this process and want to know a little bit more about all that goes into becoming an excellent musician. In my view, there are four super important factors that go into this process. Make sure you stay to the very end of the video because I'm going to talk about that fourth one, which is the most important, and then how to combine them all. The first factor, I think, which is really important, is the environment. Now, what do I mean by environment? I think it includes the physical environment and also the situation the person is in. So, for example, if you're going to a music school, do you have enough practice rooms? Do you have enough rehearsal rooms? Do you have beautiful concert halls to perform in, or are they not that great? Are they a little bit dry and not that welcoming? Even if you're learning at home, do you have a quiet place to practice? Do you have time to practice where you won't be interrupted? The whole environment, including the time and the place. And another thing that affects it is the ensembles you play in. Do you have an orchestra you can play in or a choir you can sing in? If you're going to music school, what's the quality level of those ensembles? How about chamber music, trios and quartets? The other thing about ensembles is you learn a lot, more than you could ever learn alone. If you're in a large ensemble like orchestra, choir, or band, you learn how to blend. You learn how to follow a conductor. You learn how to work within your section. If you're in a smaller ensemble, like a chamber ensemble, you learn so many other things. You learn how to take visual cues, how to lead when it's your turn to lead, how to follow when it's your turn to follow. Ensemble technique is a whole separate thing. You also learn how to tune if you're playing an instrument that doesn't have a set intonation. And in addition to that, you also want to say, how often do these ensembles perform? Because performing opportunities are rare and they're valuable. Even if you're performing in a large group, a performance is a performance, and what we are in is a performing art. And so that factor is really important. So the ensembles are a big part of this first thing, which is the environment. Second thing that's really important is your teacher. This seems obvious, but if you want to improve, even if you're already at a very high level, you want to get a good teacher. And I think there are three levels of teacher. A bad teacher will just point out when you've made a mistake. You missed that note. It says fortissimo here. You didn't do that. Oh, you didn't do this slur. That's a bad basic teacher, okay? A good teacher will do that, will point out those mistakes, but show you how to fix them. And that's the minimum that you want. And I think an excellent teacher, and I've talked about this in other videos, an excellent teacher is going to show you not only where the mistakes are, not only how to fix those mistakes, but also how to develop tools that you can use on your own to, when you encounter similar situations, you can fix them yourself. So a really excellent teacher eventually, it takes time, but eventually makes themselves obsolete. So a teacher is really important, and also because the teacher will encourage you in your musical life, help you find opportunities for performance and for competitions even. Teachers are very important. Don't neglect that aspect. Now, a third factor, which I think is less obvious, but it is really important, is the competitive environment. Now, I know competition isn't always good, and there are definitely times when you need to step back from it. But a healthy competition is when you are playing with other people and you learn from them. So if you're a cellist like me and you play with another cellist and you say, wow, her vibrato is really good, I want to do something like that, you learn from that. You might feel a little bit like, I need to get up to that level, but the result is a good one. It's that you improve your own playing. Also, the world is a competitive world. So if you want to get a job anywhere in an orchestra, there's an audition, which is a sort of competition. There are solo competitions, chamber music competitions. Even getting a job teaching at a high school or at a college, there's going to be competition. So healthy, friendly competition from an early age, or let's say an early start in your performing career, is good because it will help give you that bulletproofing that you need to be in the performing arts, frankly. Even if you don't want to become a professional musician, a little competition can be good for you for the reasons I just said, that it can help you personally improve technically and musically. And finally, the other reason competition sometimes can be important is that it gives you a reality check. You really want to know what the level of other performers is. But the most important person to compete against is yourself. And that brings me to number 4. And the most important factor in all of this is yourself. How dedicated are you going to be? And it doesn't just mean piling on the practice hours every day. I've made a few videos on this already on how to practice properly. Basically, how dedicated are you? I have seen recently some cases where students feel like they've paid the money to study with you and now you need to make them excellent. And I want to say that's not how this transaction works. I do my best to teach you everything you need to know, but your dedication is ultimately what will bring you up the levels. The other 3 factors are very important. I don't want to downplay them, but the most important factor is this 4th factor. It's you, how dedicated you are. And now I want to talk a little bit about the combinations, because if all 4 factors are there, your environment, your teacher, the competition, and how dedicated you are, if they're all there, that's ideal. But sometimes there's just no way to get all 4 factors present. So what can you do? If you have 3 out of 4, for example, you can strengthen those 3. So for example, maybe you are not in a great environment. So maybe it's hard to find a practice room, or your concert hall isn't that great, something with the facilities, right? Or maybe you're not in a competitive environment. You're studying on your own, or where you are, the other students around you don't play at the highest level. That's fine. So you would take another one of those elements, and the most important one, again, is you, and supplement that, lift that part up to account for a lack in another area. So for example, if you didn't feel that there's enough competition around you, then increase the competition on yourself. Record yourself more often. Record yourself, listen to how you play, and treat that as if it's someone else. And you say, oh, I need this person to do this, this, and that. But you're, of course, talking about yourself. If practice rooms are scarce, for example, then make sure when you do find one to make good use of it. Don't get distracted on your phone. Don't leave too early. The combinations are important. If one is lacking, you can supplement with another. But remember, the most important one is that 4th one. Thank you so much for joining me today for this sort of straight talk on how performers get better. If you have other thoughts, I'd really love to hear about them. Please let me know in the comments. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell a friend about the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.